Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Rush. Welcome to the Rush this evening. We want to say thank you very much for joining us as usual. As usual, my name is Randolph Critchlon, and I want to say thank you very much for being here with us, for those persons joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana. Welcome to the Rush. Welcome to the Rush, people. We are going to be unpacking some credible and valid information this evening. Of course, we are on Tuesdays and Fridays and Sundays. This Sunday we'll have our first Rush in depth. We'll be sitting down with, and talking this Sunday. But share the live stream, folks. Share the live stream as you come on this evening. We'll get to our greetings in just a bit. Let me go and share the live stream in a few places because we want everybody to know that we are on. We are bringing to you the credible and valid information. Folks, schools are being closed all over the country due to COVID. All over the country. There is massive protests all over Guyana. The president is out. Mark is in charge. Folks, so many things to unpack. So many things to unpack. And of course, we are going to be talking about that situation there in Dartmouth, Essequibo, because I know I am so frustrated at this point in time as other Guyanese to try and get some answers. There is still no answer from the Guyana Police Force as to what they were doing there. As to what they were doing there, folks. And that is part of the problem. There is no clear answer as to what the Guyana Police Force was doing there in the man's house at that point in time. Of course, we're going to talk education before we get to any of that. We are going to be talking about education before we get to any of that. Folks, let me just share it a few more places before we give those persons the shout-outs that we normally do on the program. Right? Give me a second. We're going to get to you. Of course, let us know where you're joining us from. Before we get into the program, I'll read those in just a bit. As you let me know where you're joining us from. Let me share it a few more places as you come on. Let us know where you're joining us from and share the live stream, folks. Thank you very much. We see persons sharing already. Thank you very much for doing that. Let me just share it a few more places, and then we'll get right into the details and unpack tonight's issues, folks. We will unpack tonight's issues. Right? I'm going to be sharing at a few more places. Let me go cross post here, and so we can get the ball rolling this evening. As we do that, you do the same too, folks. Let me just ensure that we are on all channels. APNU AFC TV coming to you this evening. The Rush. We want to say thank you very much to all of those persons who continue to support the program, who continue to support the work that we're doing here. We want to say thank you. Thank you very much for that. We're going to be sharing. Let's share before we start unpacking, folks. Let me just go a few more places. Ensure that we're all here, you know. We have to ensure, folks, we have to ensure that the information gets out. We can't sit down and hope that it gets out because, of course, because the PvP people, they have control. They have control of the traditional media, so we have to make use of the social media platforms that we have and ensure that we share the live stream and we get everyone to jump on board, folks. To jump on board. I think I've shared there now, so we're going to get to unpacking some of the credible and valid information in just a bit, because I have some videos to show you, folks. I have some serious things to discuss. I hope you're ready tonight. I hope you are ready tonight, folks. Let's go. Folks, you know how we do it here on the program. You know how we do it here on the program. As I usually say, we're going to be talking economics again tonight. Tonight is Friday. We'll be joined by young economist 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐑𝐮𝐬𝐡, and we'll be talking some economics and oil. So stay tuned for that. Let's unpack, folks.
One time for the bass, alright. Back in the day we used to live Charlotte Street. Just learn to walk and speak. Me woulda grab a bucket, 2 stick of milk in and gone in the yard and beat. Miss Paul used to suck up shit teeth. We didn't kick out the music sweet. You coulda hear me little voice in Regent Street, but I'm still in the game. On the stage I'm keeping the flame. Use the jam with Leon and Shane. We used to make enough nights in the neighborhood. Get vexed and call over Dwayne. Tell them music running me vein. Yesterday.
Right. We still in the game. We ain't giving up. We not giving up. Still in the game. Good night. Let me give a shout out to those persons in Florida. Sophia is joining us. Thank you very much. Beirut, Pennsylvania, London, all over the world. New Jersey, Port Kaituma. Our folks up there in region number 1. Thank you very much. Texas is in the house. New York. Thank you very much, Barbados, UK. I'm going back. I don't want to miss anybody, though. This is why I go back and ensure that we give you your shout-outs. South Carolina. Thank you very much for being a part, folks. Thank you for tuning in. New Orleans, Chicago, all over. Those folks in the diaspora, we are grateful. We are grateful that you continue to support the program, continue to follow us, Folks, it is very important that you like and share. Share the live stream, but ensure that you like the page so you get notifications whenever we are live. I mean, sometimes the schedule may be a little mixed up, but once you have liked the page, you'll see a notification come up on your phone. The live is the rush is live. APN UFC live. Linden, Atlanta, Toronto. Good evening. Maryland, Trinidad and Tobago. You know, I was watching the news today. And the man said Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much for tuning in. Grove. Watching from Region 11. Thank you very much for tuning in. Claudia is saying 1 people, 1 nation, 1 destiny. Going ahead all the way. Thank you very much for being a part. Toronto is in the house. Folks, too many things happening. I like to use Friday as a sort of recap, folks. A sort of recap as to what transpired during the week. West Ranville, Brooklyn is in the house. West Side. They said the West Side is the best side. Samantha Jilts, good evening to you from the West Side. Yes, she's saying it's the best side. Folks in Letem, I have a video to share about what is happening there in Letem. Apparently, there's a standoff on the border. I remember when I brought this news a few days ago, people were saying, no, there's nothing happening in Letem. But right now, the Brazilians are blocking the bridge, blocking the border. And so the trucks that are supposed to bring this stuff over from Brazil, the supplies and food supplies and all the stuff for the people of Letem, those trucks are stuck. And for those persons who are looking at us from Marco from Letem, let us know what is happening up there. Linden, Region 2, Queens. Thank you very much for tuning in. Brooklyn, West Bank. Abigail, thank you very much for tuning in. Denise wants to know if Guyana has a region 11. Yes, Denise. All of the Guyanese who live outside of Guyana, they're in region 11. They're in region. Listen, little Guyana, New York could probably lay claim. New York could probably lay claim as the official region 11. Because I think we have a large diaspora base over there in New York. I don't know. I ain't going to start any trouble tonight. I will say that New York would probably lay claim. Those persons can lay claim that they're living in region 11. Little Guyana. East Coast is in the house. Folks, let's go. Let's start off with my opening take this evening, folks. As you come on, you share the live stream. We share the live stream, folks, and we let others know what is happening. Nigel from BVI, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning in. Queens. Right. Right. Denise says, yes, we are in region 11. Folks, you know, before we start, we just want to say thanks to those persons who have started to support the programming and the work that we're doing. We want to ensure that we have the best of everything. We want to ensure that we are able to go on the ground and bring you the credible and valid information because, of course, you know, if you look at certain newscasts, you wouldn't get that. You'll get whatever Irfan and the crew wants you to hear. But we know what is happening in the country. We know how important it is for you to continue to get credible and valid information at your fingertips, at your on your phone, on your computers, wherever you're viewing us from. It's very, very important that we continue to share with you the credible and valid information. To that end, of course, we let you know that we can't do this programming without you, and there are ways and means so that you can support the work that we're doing. We have a PayPal account. It is therushgy@gmail.com. therushgy@gmail.com. If you are on a PayPal, or if you use PayPal, you can definitely support our program, whatever it is that you can support us with. If you are in Guyana and you're using the MMG platform, is 618-7321 or 617-0244, and you can support the work that we're doing here. Great. Let's move on now, folks. Let us move on. My opening take this evening, folks, has to do with the Ministry of Education. It has to do with the Ministry of Education. No surprise. No surprise that Priya and the Ministry of Education are in the news. There is no surprise there, folks. We have seen the reopening of schools, primary schools to be specific, and almost immediately, we have seen a number of schools being closed. A number of schools being closed. There are persons who are trying to call now, but we can't take your call now because, of course, we're live and we're going through the topics before, right? But one of the latest to be closed is the St. Margaret's Primary. COVID-19 cases force closure of St. Margaret's Primary. We saw this coming, folks. I sat on this program and I said to you that this reopening of schools, when we see the increased number of COVID cases around the country, is not necessarily a good thing. And the government, of course, did nothing, absolutely nothing, to try and facilitate the distance learning approach, which was needed, support students and support teachers so that they can be at home in the comforts and the safety of their homes and still receive education. So we saw the reopening of schools. We saw cleaners coming down with COVID. We saw teachers coming down with COVID. And of course, this automatically forces the closure of that school for at least 14 days. And of course, that kicks into action a whole host of contact tracing activities that I don't know that the ministry is doing. I don't know that they're doing the contact tracing. They have not given us any assurance that they are on top of things. But there's a growing list of schools that are being closed because of new COVID cases, folks. A growing list of schools that are being closed for new COVID cases. Folks, let me move this because I'm going to get to that just now. And what have they done, folks? What have they done? I think they have given some care packages to teachers, which include masks and sanitizers and a number of these things. But we see a wanton disregard for anything that anybody else says. The opposition has not been invited, of course, to be on the task force. So essentially, you don't care about what half of the country has to say. But let's move on. Let us move on because we said this before. We said that it's going to be shambolic if you force reopening of schools without putting a system in place. And we're seeing that happening. Dozens of schools around the country are closed. But I want to get to something that a teacher posted on the internet. As you may know, in an attempt to stem the tide of bad news, bad press that Priya and the Ministry of Education is getting, they have decided that, you know what, they will embark on this teacher welfare program. A part of this teacher welfare program, folks, They are offering teachers photo shoots. You didn't hear that. You didn't hear wrong. They're offering teachers photo shoots. Let me go to this. And one teacher took great exception to the prioritizing, so to speak, that the Ministry of Education has decided to, you know what? We're going to offer teachers photo shoots. $15,000 worth photo shoots, folks. And let me read what this young lady wrote on the internet. Let me just read it, folks. Because sometimes, you know, sometimes we get caught up. But I want to read it for you. She says, no standards or compromised priorities. $15,000 worth photo shoots for teachers' welfare. Or some crap like that. These are her words. Some crap like that. She's trying to make sense of the Ministry of Education's plan to give teachers a $15,000 worth photo shoot as a welfare package. Right? As a welfare package. Right? And I'm getting some information here before I'll go back to it just now. Some information now coming in. But let's continue reading. Teacher Tara Ramkelawan. She said children can't afford to travel to school. They faint from hunger. Their uniforms are ripped to the point that they no longer can be patched. Teachers need $15,000 worth photo shoot. And that's a particular theme that you'll hear. Teachers give students money to travel, go to their homes and support their parents, their guardians, ensure that they have proper uniforms and supplies to school, buy them lunch, fund feeding programs. Teachers need $15,000 worth photo shoot. Dilapidated and hazardous school buildings. Inadequate space to house all students on a normal day. Prior to COVID-19, 6 feet apart protocol. Of course, filthy, flooded walkways. Teachers need $15,000 worth photo shoot. Teachers out in the hot sun every day, pleading to be engaged. They're insulted, harassed, threatened for using metaphors and analogies. And then she puts she encloses these. She said, the only language that the human brain is designed to allow for the genuine expression of feelings when logic cannot articulate hurt. Educate yourself on how the human brain operates. Reacting to threats, disrespect, manipulation, and oppression with rich language. She's speaking here about the Ministry of Education. That was only taught through the education system. Creative jingles. Ridiculed by colleagues who never dare to stand up for themselves because of bitterness, resentment, pessimism, and cowardice, but only threaten, complain, and gossip in their corner. In their fight for their people's freedom and basic human rights, these are the teachers. And she ends it by saying teachers need $15,000 worth photo shoot. Folks, this is a teacher talking about this teacher's welfare $15,000 worth photo shoot that the ministry found necessary to include in the welfare package. I wonder why. In this time, Petula, yes, teachers need $50,000 worth photo shoot. It is almost laughable, folks. It is almost laughable. But folks, we continue. Folks, we can't take calls at this point in time. We got a chance to take a call just now. But that is where we are. And I like how she articulated it, folks. I like This is obviously a teacher who understands the inner workings of the education system, the hardships that teachers go through on a daily basis. And in order to deal with that, Pri has decided that teachers need $15,000 worth photo shoot. Folks, this is where we are. We can't even dwell on that too long because there's so many other things happening. So many other things happening, folks. We can't necessarily dwell on that too long. Folks, as you may have heard, on a lighter note, we're going to switch on the Ministry of Education now because I can rant all night about the craziness that's happening there with the Ministry of Education. But on a lighter note, of course, there's a press conference today by the PNCR, and it was announced that the Congress of the PNCR will be held in November or no later than December the 13th. Of course, this is a long-awaited Congress, pushed back, of course, because of COVID and other reasons. But of course, many persons are looking forward to this, and a date has been set now. Just to give you a bit of information on that. But what has been happening around the country? What has been happening around the country, folks? I kid you not, folks. Let me say this. I'm going to put this up in the background. I'm just put this up again. I'm going to put this up just as a visual for you to understand what is happening. Right? Actually, I'm going to put this one up just as a visual. And what you're seeing there, folks, is that it is on the naming. This is region 2 also. Right? And before we get to this, let's go to the bit of information that I just got. Someone was saying to me that no contact tracing is being done because since I was tested positive, this is somebody who is sending us some information now. Since I was tested positive, there haven't been a call to check on me or my family members. I had to call persons that I was in contact with to send them to take a test. This is somebody who, of course, who tested positive for COVID-19. The person is saying, look, nobody from the Ministry of Health called me to contact me or my family. This was something pointed out by former Minister of Health, Paula Lawrence, at that press conference today, where she said that the ministry is doing I'm going to put it this way, a piss poor job when it comes to dealing case by case, because you're sending people home to isolate. You don't know their home situation. You don't know what is happening in their home. And of course, they're making contact with people. You are not contacting them to see who they came in contact with. How are you going to control the spread if you are doing no contact tracing? And here, this is where you got it from someone who just said it. She said nobody called her. She had to take the initiative to call people. Tell them, look, I would have been in contact with you. I've tested positive for COVID. You probably need to go and take a test. It's the wild west. It is the wild west, folks. We said this from the beginning. When the APNU AFC, and I keep reminding people that there were structures and systems in place under Paula Lawrence as the Minister of Health. She reminded folks today in the press conference that she extended an invitation to Frank Anthony when he was in the opposition to be on the task force. They refused. They came in and they removed a number of things. push back the curfew. Jaggi was quoted as saying, look, we can't lock people in the house all the time. So we had a runaway effect. Huh? We had a runaway effect. And just imagine, just to think that there are three former ministers running the Ministry of Health. 3 doctors. Right? But this is what is happening, folks. And as that is happening, as we encourage you, as you come, folks, share the live stream. Share the live stream as you come on. Press the share button. Share it in your groups. As that is happening, I kid you not, there are active protests all around this country. Let me just give you a list. I want to pull up this list. Believe it or not, there are active protests going on all over Guyana. The cane cutters are protesting in Lancaster. The teachers are protesting around the country. The nurses have decided that they will protest because they're being locked out. Dartmouth residents are protesting, of course, that killing, that murder of Orrin Boston. And we're going to come to that in just a bit after we talk about these protests, because no answers were given as yet. Underneming residents have decided that they are going to block the bridge. This is it here. They have decided that they are going to block the bridge. Right? Albion, cane cutters, Down Tools, they're in the road in Rose Hall today, sorry. Down Tools. The residents of Sandpit decided that they're going to protest. All over this country, there is active protest. And if you think, we making this up, listen to the cane cutters from Lancaster.
Since the crop started, our average earnings is about $10,000. Prior to the flood, our average earnings would have been in the range of $30,000 to $60,000. The flood has been affected us in such a way that we can't even supply our basic needs at home. And so, by working, we need to a point now that we can't work anymore. We cannot work anymore. You know what I mean? The workers started to get frustrated. Everybody started to get frustrated. And that's the reason why we are here this morning. Right? We are very much frustrated. We are simply saying, we commend the government to give out flood relief to farmers that were affected. But you think about it. People at 𝐓𝐡𝐞 were the most affected. And this thing has a spring-off effect. Obviously, if 𝐓𝐡𝐞 are affected, then the workers who will harvest the cane will be affected too. So, according to the manager, 30% of the big crop lost through flood. The small crop, 80%. Yes. I said all these things to you for you to get an understanding that the sufferment is going to be long-term. It is not short-term, it's going to be long-term. So I hope that people who in authority can see this video and help us. Help us to resolve the matter. We're willing to resolve the matter, but you got to compensate people. You got to compensate. That's our position. Yes. Clear cut.
No money.
This is Mr. Park right now with cane cutters on the Lancaster Public Road who now protesting.
No money, no work. All the cutlass down. That was the cane harvesters, the cane cutters, who, in my estimation, are being treated quite fine. But they have money issues also. I remember the other day when the cane cutters were protesting. Jagdeo ran like the savior. Come, y'all, come, we give you, find them some money to give them. I wonder what will happen this time. I wonder what will happen. We have a sugar industry that is basically sucking money from the country. But we're finding money to pump into it. Nurses, teachers, cane cutters, normal residents. The other day, the rice farmers blocked the road because the government didn't give them the money. It's only a matter of time before the public servants come out and say, well, wait, you don't tell me anything yet about raise the salary. You don't tell us anything about the public servants. These are the people, folks, who said to you for 5 years that they know how to govern the country. This is what they were talking about. Confusion in every sector, in every corner of this country. These are the people, folks, who said they know about law and order. The Guyana police force is in shambles. They have been trying to intervene in promotions. The Guyana police force is in shambles. These are the people who said they know about law and order. They know how to govern. All they know how to do acts that they be deemed corrupt. Drawbacks. That is what they're good at. And I've said it over and over on this show that these people, the People's Progressive Party, do not care about the average man. Whether it be their supporters or the APNUFC supporters. As long as you have nothing to give them, they can't benefit from you. They do not care about you. Everything is in shambles in 1 year. They can manage their way out of a paper bag right now. Education, health is in shambles. The police force is in shambles. These are the people who hoodwink this country, fraudulently stolen election, installed in government, and telling people they can govern. Folks, as you know, the issues in Dartmouth have made national attention, gotten national attention. And the people of 𝐓𝐡𝐞, people of region 2, they're angry. They are angry. And I have the MP for the region, Mr. Sherwin Holder, who was on the ground doing a great job bringing us the footage and the remarks on those persons there, even the family members. We're going to be talking with him because we haven't gotten an update all day on what is really happening there on the ground. But let me just add my 2 cents to this madness. I have a simple question that I need answered. And I've been reading all of the reports coming out from the Guyana Police Force. I've been reading them. But I still don't know why the SWAT team was there in the man's house. That is what I want to know. Why were they there at 3 o'clock in the morning for this man? Was there a report out for this man? Was this man a wanted fugitive? Was this man somebody on some list? What was the charge against Mr. Orin Boston? that necessitated you getting the SWAT team kicking his door down at 3 o'clock in the morning and killing him? What was the charge against Mr. Boston? Maybe somebody in the comments know, because I don't know. I don't know that the police force knows what is really happening in this country. What is happening? And the residents have all right to be upset.
No, the sun got black again.
They have all right to be upset. Because I think we take for granted, folks. I think we take for granted how egregious this act is. How outside of the norm this is. How far beyond the pale something like this is. Because it could have been me. It could be you. It could be anybody that somebody gets some problem with, and the police reach in your house and kills you in the middle of the night and say that you had some scuffle with them. Why were they there in the first place? That is what I want to know. We need answers. We need answers. Folks, let me welcome MP Sherwin Holder to kind of bring some clarity and help us unpack. I know we've had a lot happening in Region 2. I want to welcome in MP Holder so we can talk some more about this. MP, welcome. I don't think your mic is on.
Good night, Randy. I must apologize for this. Could I log in back?
Yes,
I got a call and it sort of messed with the audio, so I can hardly hear you.
Okay, no problem. Great.
Just give me a second to log in back.
Great. Right, we'll be rejoining MP Holder in just a few minutes as he sorts that out. But we need answers. We need answers, folks. I know our time is going. We still have our economic segment to get to, and I want to ask some specific question of Mr. Lowe this evening about oil and especially local content, because there's been a lot of talk about whether or not our local businesses are benefiting. And as we wait on that, we'll come back and end our program with Sherwin Holder. But let's jump right into our economic segment this evening. And I want to welcome in economist 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Lowe to the conversation this evening. Welcome to The Rush. Welcome to The Rush.
Hi, good to be on as always.
Right, thank you very much. And I know our viewers like to hear from you as we talk economics on a Friday evening. 𝐓𝐡𝐞, let's jump right in, and thank you again for being a part of the program. Let's jump right in. Unprecedented amount of monies are supposed to be coming into the country. Jobs are supposed to be created, but there is a talk and a phrase, local content. And I was doing some reading, and one article says billions being spent with Guyanese suppliers, even as stakeholders continue to push for local content legislation. That statement in itself says to me that the legislation is not yet fully enacted. So where are we with this idea of local content?
Yes, well, until the legislation is actually, until it's actually law, what's going on is that we have a policy, or we have presented a policy, and Exxon is following that voluntarily. Obviously, that indicates that the enforcement of that policy, there isn't really a mechanism to enforce that if it's voluntary.
Yeah.
But, that local content policy in of itself, I think is not robust enough. I think needed to be much more comprehensive. And so you're seeing strides by Exxon to try and satisfy A and B. But what we really need to look at, which is going to be core, is local content is not just about hiring a lot of people to do, basic tasks and so on. It's about ensuring that local people learn the skills that are necessary to have advanced jobs in the oil and gas industry so that they can have some of the higher salaried, more substantial jobs in the industry. I mean, while I don't want to put down work like cleaning and so on and so forth, we're not looking just at those types of jobs. We're looking at the type of jobs where we have scientists there, where we have oil field engineers and people who are actively involved in everything in that industry, rather than having all of the top jobs going to foreigners and Guyanese looking at the lower end jobs. So that is really what's required from a local content policy. Timelines are important and numbers are important. Yeah. But in order for you to accomplish those timelines, two things will have to happen. The first is, of course, this needs to, you need to make sure that the mechanisms are in place, whether it's a law, the enforcement mechanisms. But the other thing that is important is that you ensure that you actually are training people so that they can take on these roles, whether it is through education or it is through internal training at Exxon and the other oil companies. The reason I say that is that what will happen is that if we are not training enough people, the oil companies will simply say there aren't local people to fill these posts. Mm-hmm. And as a result of there not being local people to fill these posts, they can't keep up with the local content requirements. Therefore, they're not going to comply with them. So unless we do our part, they can quite easily get around those local content requirements and leave Guyanese as last in the last rung of the ladder, if you would. So that essentially is the task that we have to look at. And as I've remarked previously, I think the government's doing a very poor job of that. You haven't really heard them mention at all efforts to train people in the oil and gas industry. Yeah, I spoke at length about the gold scholarship, which it's good that we're giving people scholarships. I'm never going to be against that. However, I was surprised that the focus of that program, that most of the scholarships were not in the oil and gas industry. You might have had one or two, nothing substantial. That obviously is the biggest area that we need training in this country, the greatest need in this country. And so it was a shock to me that was not the focus. Yeah. If we want to ensure that we have enough people to be in this industry, we need to have a focus on training people. And I can also speak to how this will affect our relationship with our Caribbean partners, some of whom produce oil as well.
And I want to talk about that very quickly, because there was a post circulating with some Trinidadian vehicles and stuff. We know that Trinidad is an established oil producer, and they would have skilled persons who would have been working in the oil sector for a number of years, and those persons may be looking for work in our oil sector, which is in its infancy stage. And how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that, as considering our position as a CARICOM partner and the free movement of people and work and all these things? Because you have to, of course, you can't tell them that they can't come and work. How do we manage that?
Well, what I would say is the first thing is you don't have much of a case to any CARICOM member if you don't have the people yourself to fill the posts. That's the first thing. So we have to ensure that we're training people. However, it is also important for us to recognize that if we don't get on the ball here, there's a ready-made workforce in Trinidad that can service our current industry. MP Patterson would have indicated that Guyana is spending about $2 million US a day on shore-based facilities in Trinidad. Now, I am assuming that those shore-based facilities have shore-based workers. And obviously, if we're setting up shore bases here and the business is going to move from Trinidad to Guyana, and those workers can move due to freedom of movement in the Caribbean, then there's nothing stopping them just leaving Trinidad and coming and working at our shore bases, right? So we need to ensure that our people are trained so that they can fill those posts. Otherwise, you may close your eyes and open your eyes and we have Trinidadians in all of these posts, which is not really the way that we want things to pan out. Yeah. So, when you even look at the numbers, if you look at the Trinidad Oil Field Workers Union, that has about 11,000 members. So that's quite a lot of people, 11,000 people involved in the oil and gas industry. When you look at the shore bases that are under construction in Guyana, one of them is saying that it's going to require about 2,000 employees, 2,000 workers. I know four of them so far. I mean, you could probably estimate around 5,000 workers might be required given the current shore-based facilities under development. What that means is that we're going to generate about 5,000 jobs in that industry. But if you already have 11,000 people in Trinidad who are familiar with oil and gas industry, the oil and gas industry, and can perhaps easily be retrained to adjust, then you could easily see those people coming over and collecting these jobs and us ending up with the short end of the stick again. So what we have to do is to ensure that that is our priority. That is not what I'm seeing, and as a result, the sad conclusion is that this is something that we have to be concerned about. Other Caribbean countries workers coming and getting jobs that we anticipated would be Guyanese jobs. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to need Caribbean workers. I think that we will, over the medium to long term, need a lot of Caribbean workers. And I think that I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's willing to sit down and think long term that Guyana will end up being the beating heart of the Caribbean economically, and that we'll have large scale migration unless a certain political party decides that they don't want to do that. Perhaps for reasons that are related to the race of the workers that might come in. But that's a more elaborate topic.
Yeah.
The point being that we have to ensure that we keep up because we can easily be outpaced.
Yeah. Mark Doris is saying in the comments that preference must be given to Guyanese. I think that must, that's something that people are having at the back of their mind, that will preference be given to Guyanese workers? It all depends, of course, the skill and whether or not the Guyanese have the skill to the experience to do the work. I mean, that's a ticklish line to walk on, but I understand the sentiments. Elson, we're going to bring in Sherwin now, but I want you to stick around because there's an economic side to this. There's an economic consequence to rising crime in our country and the actions of the police, and I will talk about that. But let's bring in Honorable Sherwin Holder, the MP representing Region Number 2. Sherwin, good evening.
Good evening, Randy, and good evening, Elson, my friend.
All right. So thank you very much, Sherwin. Let me just jump right in, Sherwin. What is the situation on the ground?
Currently the blockade is still in place. This morning you had an attempt by the police force to clear the main access bridge to the community. That was unsuccessful since the villagers quickly resisted, causing the police to actually exit the vehicle that they were using to in the attempt to clear the bridge. And so you had a little standoff there for some period, but I'm told the regional commander went in with a team and visited the family. Now, they had some discussion while they were there. They had some discussion pertaining to the shooter. I learned that they named the shooter. They presented a picture of the officer, and a promise was made. A promise was made that the officer would be charged in the upcoming week for murder, I assume. So that was made, and there was a plea to the family for the protest action to come to a halt. And so there was much confusion within the community. I know for a fact the family there, they're mostly women there. Mr. Orin Boston's father is not there at the moment. I'm told he's on his way and should be in the region shortly. So basically at the home there, you have his mother, you have the wife, and you have his siblings, his sisters. And so I think the police are trying to use that to their advantage. I'm not saying that women are not strong, Women are very strong, but they're trying to take advantage of that situation, in my opinion, and they've made some effort to have to quell the protest there. So far, they were successful in clearing the main bridge, and I'm seeing the bridge there on the screen. They were successful in clearing the debris from that bridge.
Yes.
But as fast as they cleared that debris there, the angry villagers began to block further within the community. Now it's a very big community with lots of streets, lots of internal roads, and so all of those roads are blocked within the
So I
community.
think the police are trying. Yeah.
Every street within the community is currently blocked. You have huge debris. You have poles, old utility poles, and other debris across the main road and across the community roads, essentially blocking the traffic completely from
Yeah.
moving past Dartmouth. However, there is no fire within the community. I'm told that the protesters considered the effects of smoke and fire within the community, and so the blockage is based on is debris, but there are no fires within the community.
Yeah. All right. So, MP, I want to ask a question that is bothering me. Uh, was there a reason given before we come back to Miss Lou? But I heard, because I read today that the business community is pleading with this protesters. We know there's the economic impact, and this is probably, people do this because they want to bring attention to their plight. But what was the reason, MP, if I can get you to address that, given by the police for them to be in Mr. Boston's house 3 o'clock that morning?
As far as I know, Randy, that's the $1 million question here. There are lots of unanswered questions, but that specific question is the $1 million question. I mean, for the SWAT team, this is not the ordinary police. This is not the tactical service. This is the SWAT that were trained by the Canadians, billions of dollars spent, you know, and based on my reading and listening to professionals, they're very peculiar circumstances where you would bring in a SWAT team. So
Yeah.
that is the $1 million question, and unfortunately, there are no answers. No answers were provided by the police. I think when you look at their press conference, it created more questions than answers. And I think that further incensed the community, because you get a feeling that there is some attempt at covering up. There
Yeah.
is some attempt at covering what has happened here. We expected to hear from the police, from the commissioner of police, who ordered this operation. What was the reason? What prompted it? We hear about a high-level threat. What high-level threat are they talking about? So that is the type of question. I was on the big boat when the SWAT team came down here, because they came here before that operation. They came when Ali and had the outreach here just a few days before the incident.
Yeah.
And so I was saying to myself, and a number of persons were asking the very question, why is the SWAT, so many SWAT officers accompanying the president? It appears that there is a major problem within the region. And, and coming back to the incident, again, lots of questions there. Mr. Orrin Boston was on the road, very visible when the president was in Dartmouth, because he and a number of other ministers were in Dartmouth. And Mr. Orrin Boston was up front. Nobody asked him any questions. There were lots of police, the SWAT, the army, everybody was there. And nobody made any attempt whatsoever to arrest, question, or do anything. So again, that question, that is one of the main questions that persons are asking. What was the reason for this? Why did this guy had to lose his life so stupidly, so senselessly? You know, and Randy, if I may, now I don't know what we don't know. Obviously don't know what the reason, what was the reason behind this. But if they needed to search the home of Mr. Boston, I'm told that his establishment, his shop, was open pretty late. He was there, he was visible. They obviously had intel on him. They had someone on the ground there, I understand, watching him, and they waited until he retired to bed. Why do that? Why create that situation where something can run amok, something extreme could happen? You could have arrested him there. You could have carried out your search, you know, and you didn't. There was no need. There was no need to go to that extreme till 4 in the morning when Mr. Boston would have retired to bed, and then you barge in, you know, and all sorts of things could have happened. His wife could have been killed. His kids could have been killed quite easily. And that is what angers the people of Dartmouth. You know, in a situation like this, one would expect that the ordinary police are capable enough to carry out a search. Ordinary police. If some sort of situation presents itself where there is some risk or some threat, then you revert to the tactical the tactical service squad. That next level. But you don't go to the SWAT.
But what search? Search for what? What was the reason? Did the police say this man was in possession of illicit or illegal drugs or ammunition or weapons? What was it? Did they say why were they in the man's house? And that is the strangest thing. How could we accept that the police kick down somebody's door for their morning, go in the room, kill them, and there is no reason given for them being in the house? It is absolutely befuddling. And
that
go ahead.
That is the definition of murder. That was an execution. It was an execution, Randy. The only thing that we know that they searched for, that we can confirm, is his birth certificate. I was told that they were looking for his birth certificate. So, you know, nothing else can be explained. And, you know, for the commissioner of police and the crime chief to host a press conference where they cannot clearly state what the reasons were and who ordered such an operation, you know, it tells a lot about what is happening in the police force and the state of the country as a whole.
Yeah. And as we talk about that, let me invite Elson back in this conversation, because we know that the police force is vital for maintaining law and order. And we see Guyana drift into a place of lawlessness, Elson. As a young person looking on, your thoughts on the atmosphere that we have in the country now, given, you know, we were talking economics, but how does this impact you as a young person and the country as a whole? Your thoughts?
Well, I'll make 2 points. The first is, you know, we have a long history of police abusing their power. There's a lot of anxiety about death squads and these types of things that we've seen in our past, and we don't want to see anything that at all resembles an extrajudicial killing in this country ever again. So we have to be very alert when we see something like this going on, and we have to ask key questions as to what is going on. And you're asking a very relevant question, which is why were they there in the first place? And why is it that a SWAT team was required for something as routine as a search? That is a big red alarm. The fact that the police also indicated that the man was shot in his arm when he obviously was pronounced dead indicates, you know, that the testimony coming out of the police from there on is questionable testimony. right? Because as far as I understand it, being shot in your arm will not kill you.
Mhm.
So that raises some significant concerns, and when we think long term about this, we don't want to be creeping towards a state which is a police state and uses oil resources to control its population. We don't want to be heading in that direction at all, and that will be disastrous for the entire country.
Yeah. On
On the
only.
other hand, when you look at the economic side of it, that's the second side of it. If we want to be this bright, shining mecca, this new emerging country in the Caribbean, if we want to occupy the central space in the Caribbean as its primary economic power, then how can we have a country where people are just walking in your house and shooting you down, and there's no recriminations? Whoever it is that was involved in that shooting, we need to see the fullest of justice. Now, I don't know the exact circumstances. I'm sure they would come out in a trial. We just have an idea of it. But if this person is indeed guilty of an extrajudicial killing, then they need to go to jail. That needs to be a standard that is set, and they need to be made an example of, so that people do not think that that is something that can happen in this country. If we want foreign investors and foreign people to move to Guyana to help to build the country and to satisfy some of the areas where we don't have the skilled workforce, we cannot have a country where things like this are happening. Imagine for a moment that you're a foreign investor and you want to move to Guyana to open a business, but you read an article which says that a local business person, the police broke down his door, went into his house, shot and killed him, cannot account for why they were there. I mean, that is extremely scary to somebody who is living in a country where that does not happen.
Mhm.
And we in Guyana may be less frightened about it than somebody abroad, because we are accustomed to nonsense. But somebody abroad would have second thoughts, because they're thinking to themselves, do I want to live in a country where that is going on? And so these things are massive deterrents to foreign investment, massive deterrents to getting people to migrate to Guyana who have high skills and whose skills are in demand, and they will hold us back economically. One of the things that is said about Singapore, which is why it was so successful, is that that is the country in the region where law and order was the strongest, and where foreign people could have a first world experience in terms of the institutions. They could feel safe, things worked, they could rely on things, and so they felt comfortable moving there and investing there. And as a result, Singapore became one of the centers of investment for the entire region, where lots of companies are based that do business throughout the region. They will not be based in a country where police are going into your house, shooting you, can't account for why they were there, can't account for how come they shot you in one part, but you happen to die, and can't give a clear account of the events. And on top of that, it is a SWAT team. It is not just regular police.
Yeah.
Well, I think that these things must be taken seriously, and we have to understand that in other parts of the Caribbean we have substantial crime. Trinidad, there's crime. Jamaica, there's crime. We are trying to move forward, and if we're going to move forward, we cannot have the things that happened in the past happening anymore. So I hope that justice is served, and whoever it is, if that person engaged in an extrajudicial killing, that person goes to jail and is made an example of.
Well said, Elson. I want to come back to MP Holder here, because a few months back there was a big controversy with the young man, another businessman who died when he was in custody in the police vehicle. And in the parliament, I know we had much ado. They had much debate about this regional support teams, that this new arm of the police force, so to speak, that the Minister of Home Affairs seemed to know little about, because he didn't bring the bill. It was brought by 𝐏𝐏𝐏 𝐂𝐨𝐧. And I know you spoke at length with this. And these are the reasons why the opposition was so concerned about these things, because we know Guyana's history. We know the history of the PPP when it comes to these special branches, so to speak. Your thoughts?
I fully agree with you, Randy. I share your sentiments. You're absolutely right. we first recognized that there's a problem here after we were going through the 2021 budget, and we saw a whole truckload of money on this item tucked in a corner. And so we had much discussion on it, and we decided to interrogate it in the parliament. And immediately we recognized that, look, instead of the Home Affairs Minister defending this, which he should be the one defending it, it was under Madam 𝐏𝐏𝐏 𝐂𝐨𝐧. And then she was all defensive and secretive. She hardly wanted to release any information. As a matter of fact, if we go back to the records in Parliament, we go back to the video, or we check the parliamentary records, you would recognize that she first said that it's national security.
Yes.
And the leader of the opposition cautioned her about that. He objected to the speaker. He said that, look, this is under the police force, and anything that comes, any line item that falls under the Guyana police force has to be interrogated in the parliament. We have to know, the nation has to know what those monies are for. And so that is how we started to get little bits and pieces from 𝐏𝐏, very scattered, and she was clearly trying to throw us off. And that is how we first broke with this story. But we said it in the beginning. When we look at it and we looked at her posture, the posture that she took, we said to ourselves, we said, look, this here is the black clothes, the return of the black clothes. We knew it. We said it from that day that this is the return of the black clothes, because when we looked at it, we saw that it was not coming under directly, while the money is coming under the GPF. The control, the structure of the organization is not one that falls under the Commissioner of Police. There is someone else, a military person, who is heading this unit. And so who is giving him the instructions?
Yeah.
The Commissioner of Police is protected from political interference by the Constitution. We know that they're trampling on the Constitution, but technically he is protected. At any time he can refuse political directives, right? But this guy and this unit doesn't have that protection. They don't have that kind of coverage. And so you know right away that the politicians in office will have full control and will be directing that unit. And that is something that Guyanese people must speak out against. We must refuse to have such a parallel police force. This is the result. This is what happens when you have that kind of parallel force, that kind of structure operating. And that is why, Randy, the Commissioner of Police could not have answered certain key questions, because he doesn't know. In my opinion, he doesn't know. The crime chief doesn't know. It came from a different angle.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Folks, if you're now joining us, we're chatting with economist 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐑𝐮𝐬𝐡 and opposition representative in Parliament, Honorable Sherwin Holder from Region Number 2. We're getting updates on what is happening up there. Folks, yesterday, I believe, the leader of the opposition, acting Roycel Ford, made a statement on this. And gentlemen, we'll play the statement and we'll come back and wrap up the program. Let's listen to what Mr. Ford had to say on this particular issue, this murder, the shooting of Mr. Orrin Boston in his bed, unarmed by the SWAT. Let's listen in.
Continued. Another card indicates that in relation to the information that I've received so far, it indicates that it is another tragic situation. Another occurrence whereby the Guyana Police Force seemed to have continued just where it left off prior to 2015. It has resumed the process of invading the homes of citizens, particularly African Guyanese. It apparently seems to be the historical trend, to storm their homes late at night, early into the morning, and to kill them. Yes, I said kill them in front of their families. This is another disturbing event. It reminds us of the situation in relation to Shaka Blair, who was killed, I believe, in similar circumstances. Shaka Blair's death has never, as far as I understand, been properly investigated and determined. The persons have never been held responsible. And I hope that we are not going back to that same situation again in relation to the killing today by the Guyana Police Force of Mr. Oren Boston. It's very disturbing to know that the Guyana Police Force, hours after, would have issued such a statement. The statement is vague, it's vacuous, and it's quite an embarrassment. The statement fails to indicate why they would have gone to the home. They fail to indicate the circumstances that happened, who were present. The statement fails to indicate what the search was for and whether they had a warrant. I'm very disturbed that the sort of killing could have taken place in the presence of his wife, in the presence of his children. And today it is very disturbing that to note that the guardians of democracy, who were very active and calling for democracy, calling for equality, calling for results of national elections, are very silent. The PPP is very silent. The Minister of Social Protection could find time, Vidya Prasad could find time to speak about a jingle and other irrelevancies, while Guyanese people are suffering. While constitutional agencies charged to protect the children, the rights of the Children Commission, remain silent. There's also the issue of the Gender and Equality Commission, because I spoke to a mother this afternoon. I spoke to a wife who's very distraught, very upset, and we seem to be going through this process time after time. It is time for the Guyanese people to stand up and hold the government and the Guyana Police Force responsible. We also need to know who would have been the officers of the Guyana Police Force who would have instructed this SWAT team to go to his home at that hour of the morning. So these are very strange events, they're very disturbing events, and very distressing events. I've issued a statement early in the day in which I called for a thorough, proper investigation. The reason why I did that is because I saw passingly, I believe in one of the statements issued by the police force, that they're asking the Office of the Professional Responsibility to do an investigation. I have no confidence in that office. I have no confidence in the Guyana Police Force currently, and the Guyanese people don't have any confidence in them. And more importantly, the family that I spoke to, the wife I spoke to, and the sister of Mr. Oren Boston has absolutely no confidence in the Guyana Police Force's capacity to conduct an investigation. So I hope that this call will be taken up. It's not really a call, it is first a demand that a proper investigation be done, and a thorough investigation by an independent person, preferably somebody who does not live in this country, preferably an institution like the FBI or the Scotland Yard from the United Kingdom. We are done with this level of nonsense in this country, and we will hold the government accountable. This is not simply about killing people and running around in this place anymore.
Right, strong words there from the Mr. Ford, who is performing the duties of the leader of the opposition. Gentlemen, this is truly a sad turn of events, and I want to give you an opportunity to wrap up. Share your thoughts, and I will ask specifically that Mr. Holder tell us about what's next, being there on the ground with the people of region number 2. Elson, I'm giving you, we normally say on this program, one more thing. One more thing, your opportunity to wrap up.
Yes, thank you. Well, what I would say is this. There's a call for an investigation. There's a call for an investigation by the government itself. Mm-hmm. Now, let us see what comes out of the investigation. But the question I would ask is this. If nothing comes out of that investigation, what does that tell you?
Yeah. Like we're still waiting on the Henry Boy's killers.
Exactly. And that is what I think Guyanese need to keep in mind. They can call for investigations as much as they'd like. We need to see results coming out of these investigations. And if this just goes, swept under the rug, if we don't ever see anything come out of this, then we have to ask ourselves what we must now think about what is going on.
Yeah.
That is it. And again, I say this from an economic standpoint. Just imagine what a foreign business person is thinking looking at this country and hearing this type of thing.
Yeah.
A business person's door is beaten down in the middle of the night. The police cannot indicate why they were there, cannot indicate who gave the instructions, made use of the SWAT, which is a very senior and a very senior level of the police force that is only required for very serious circumstances. The person is killed. The account that comes out of it is a very questionable account, and we're still to hear exactly what is going on. So we must consider that these things have consequences. You know, it is not as much as we in Guyana are very concerned about our safety and should be very concerned. We must also recognize that we're trying to move the country forward and to build this better Guyana. And these types of incidences must be left behind us. Otherwise, they will harm our economic development as much as they strike fear into our hearts. And that's the way that I would close that off.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Holder. What's next to the people of region number 2 and more so Dartmouth?
Well, before I address that, I'd like to agree with 𝐓𝐡𝐞 completely. I could not have put it better. And I also agree with the acting leader of the opposition. Look, there is much distrust in the Guyana police force. I believe that the majority of Guyanese don't have confidence in their ability to investigate in an impartial manner, especially when it's the police investigating themselves. So I would like to join with the leader of the opposition and with all Guyanese in calling, and with the family also, in calling for an independent investigation. I agree with 𝐓𝐡𝐞 also. We have to look and see what will be the outcome. We don't have confidence in them, but they're making certain promises. As I said earlier, they've made a promise to the family. We saw the commissioner of police himself making that promise also, saying that no stone will be left unturned, and they will get justice. But as the leader of the opposition rightfully reminded all of Guyana, that when you look at it historically, what has happened with these sorts of cases, when you look at Shaka Blair, when you look at this guy from Agricola, the youth from Agricola, when you look at the case with Johansi Douglas, I could recall that, the UG student, young man. When you look at cases that just happened, you had this case with the guy, I forgot his name, in the car where they placed him in the front seat.
Yeah.
You know, there is so much. And so I think the residents of Dartmouth rightfully don't have the kind of confidence in the police force to execute this investigation in an impartial manner. And that lack of confidence was and distrust was exacerbated by the disrespectful statement, press release that was issued by the police force, and then the subsequent press conference, where you had no answers to many of the questions, and there is a perception that it's either a cover-up or the leadership of the police force just doesn't know, or both. Right? Or a combination. Maybe they know something, but they don't know everything, and they didn't give the instruction. So it was that exacerbated the situation. And so whatever happens in Dartmouth should be placed squarely at the feet of the police force. Their duty now is to stick to their word, come out with these answers, give these answers to the people. We want to know who instructed, why, how, when, the whole story to it. And I think that once they can do that, it would calm the nerves of the people there. It would go a long way towards us in the region returning to some normalcy. But we have to look and see what is happening. I'm told that the officers should be charged on Monday. And let me say this, Randy, before you go. I have been speaking with persons close to the investigation. I've been speaking to retired detectives and so, and they've expressed to me that charging this guy on Monday, and based on everything that they know, they think that something doesn't seem right with the way how these investigations normally occur. While the people want justice in a very quick period of time, these experts are saying that, look, there are a number of things that should happen before this guy goes to court. And they are wondering if when he goes to court, a proper case is not made out. And this is all a sham. This is all a sham to get the people off the road and to ease the pressure from the police force and from the government. So we'll have to wait and see where this goes. But I maintain, and I'm standing with the family here, that there should be an independent investigation.
Yeah.
In this matter.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Holder. I know I was distracted by some information coming in. Sorry about that, folks. We really unpacked some information there regarding all of this. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐑𝐮𝐬𝐡, economist and advisor on youth and economics, to the leader of the opposition, and the representative from region number 2, Honorable Sherwin Holder, MP. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for helping us to unpack these issues this evening. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you.
Right, folks, if you are now joining us, we want to say thank you very much for being a part of the program. I was distracted by a bit of information coming in. Oh, my word. Oh, my word. Wow. This thing's tight, really tight in Guyana, folks. Things are really, really tight. You know, I didn't see this comment, but apparently somebody is commenting in the comment section, right? Wow. Well, if this is true, folks, I'm going to read it. I am going to read it because it is there in my comment section, and it really distracted me before we go this evening. Somebody took a screenshot and sent it to me. A Candy Cross is commenting. She says, hello, can anyone please bless me and my 3 kids with dinner? I'm a single mother, right? Having, it's supposed to be a hard time, and she has a cash app. And she has a cash app, Candy with a 𝐏𝐸𝐷712. Things tight. As my friend Sherry Duncan would say, things tight. People are reaching out in the comment section for help. Folks, thank you again to those 2 young men who joined us to help unpack. Yeah, this comment from Candy really threw me off balance there. But yes, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 and Mr. Holder, of course, bringing some light there. 𝐓𝐡𝐞, of course, joins us every Friday for our economic gaffe. And of course, we had to bring in Mr. Holder, who is a representative from region number 2, to tell us what is happening there. Apparently, the relatives know who the police officer is that shot Mr. Boston. They're expecting him to be charged on Monday. We hope that this is not being rushed just to appease the people, and the proper investigation is done where all the evidence is considered and people know exactly why the police were there, why this man lost his life, right? Yes, folks, I see the comment. Things tight. President not here. Mark is in charge. Protests happening all over. Priya don't know what she's doing in education. Frank can know how to really. Frank and the other two ministers ain't know what they're doing. Miss Lawrence today called for free testing. This is something we've been saying all the time. Put up these testing sites. If you're so concerned about the economics of the country and the business people, give the people, put up these free testing sites so that people could go to work and go Giftland right now get 4 people in it. 4 people in Giftland right now. And 2 in the stall selling and 2, probably 2 customers. If you really care about the business community, test the people for free. Let the people go shop. But these people know how to govern people. They said they know how to govern. They said they know how to govern. Let's see. Let us see, folks. Folks, as we go this evening, we encourage you to continue to support the work that we're doing here. We're going to make way at 8 o'clock for Sheriff Duncan in the ring. But of course, before we go, we ask you to share the live stream. Still share it because other persons will come after you and they would want to see it. But remember, you can support the program. You can support the work we're doing here. Our PayPal account is The Rush @gmail.com. TheRushGY@gmail.com. That's the email you use if you're using PayPal. If you're on MMG, 618-7321, 618-7321. If you also the MMG, it's 617-0244. Powered by you, made possible by you folks. The work that we do here, we want to say thank you. Continue to support the work that we're doing. Give us a buzz if you have any information on any of those 2 numbers. Again, you want to support, you support. If you want to share some information, those are the 2 numbers. We prefer that you use 618. If you want to share some information with us, 618-7321. That's available on WhatsApp also. Or you can email us at therushgy@gmail.com. Of course, we will deal with your information in this with the strictest confidentiality. Anonymity will be maintained. If you have any information to share about what is happening in your community, have a tip for us, use the WhatsApp number 618-7321 or email us at therushgy@gmail.com. Coincidentally, those are the same emails and numbers if you want to support the programming with any little amount of donation that you want to help us to continue bringing the credible and valid information to you folks. As we say good night, and we hope that you stay tuned to APNU AFC TV this evening. As you stay tuned to APNU AFC TV this evening, enjoy in the ring with Sheriff Duncan later on. My name is Randolph Critchlow. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, folks. No matter where you're joining us from, our friends in Region 11, our friends all over the world, in France, in England, Germany, Paris, all over the world, all over Guyana, who join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Of course, this Sunday we'll have our first Sunday, the Rush In-Depth, where we sit down and have in-depth conversation on matters of national concern. With that, folks, I say good evening. Let's remember that we can continue. Let's work together, folks. Let's work together to ensure that we achieve national development. My name is Randolph Critchlow. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.
One time for the bass, alright. Back in the day we used to live Charlotte Street. Just learn to walk and speak. Me woulda grab a bucket, 2 stick of milk in and gone in the yard and beat. Miss Paul used to suck up she teeth. We didn't kick out the music sweet. You could hear me little voice in 𝐓𝐡𝐞 but I'm still in the game. On the stage I'm keeping the flame. Used to jump with Leon and Shane. We used to make enough noise in the neighborhood. Get vexed and call over Dwayne. Tell them music run in me vein.